Hi, y'all.
Hello.
Welcome to Rusty Knits.
Thanks for joining us again. We've got some new subscribers, and I'm so excited about that.
Thank y'all very much. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for all your comments. We'll look at some of those. We'll mention some of them along the way. Also, happy Gay Pride Month. It's June, so happy Gay Pride. We haven't really done that much about that ourselves this month because the month's been pretty much consumed with, and rightfully so, Black Lives Matters. And so we wanted to take this time for their episode to say happy Pride, because equality belongs to everybody. But at this point, we really need to focus on Black Lives Matter, on people who should have had equality a long time ago.
Well, gay pride can feel like a party a lot of times.
And it can.
We've made progress.
We've made progress, and we party a lot. I guess a lot of people do, but we do. We mentioned in the last episode it was our anniversary week, and our anniversary was coming up. That Friday, right after we filmed, the protest started here in Dallas. We live across the street from the police association, which is the Union Hall. We live a few blocks from the police headquarters to the southwest, and just about 6 blocks across the freeway to the north is City Hall. So we've been on the protest route that Friday night. They came in mass down the street and yelled at the police association. Interesting. If I'd been younger, I would have been out there with them maybe, because I used to be a much more of an activist myself. But as I've gotten older, I've been kind of taking a hiatus on lots of things. But being an activist,
there's other ways to be active.
There are. There's other ways to promote and support. And I try to do that a bit more passively now myself. For years, I did do the gay pride things. I did a gay call-in line when I was really young, when everything was kind of getting started. As corporations started having their
mentoring?
Ally teams. Groups of people who can associate with each other, diversity teams. So one of them was that actually I helped get started in Dallas was the Pride team, and our Houston sister bank in Houston had actually got it kicked off, and we were leading the major company, which was Chase Bank at the time that I used to work for, and we helped New York get a chapter going. We helped London get a chapter going. We helped Chicago, other cities across the U.S. And from there, I also started helping get the bank going with affinity groups. That's what I wanted to say. Affinity groups for Black African Americans, Hispanic people, Asian people. So that was fun in those days, being on the Diversity Council for the overall corporation and helping
Loud
get
sound
those
out on
things
the
started.
highway.
They might not be able to hear it though.
We both look up like two kittens.
That's true. So I've also was always organizing our entrance into the Gay Pride Parade, and some years I would go down and participate with Houston too. And it was one of those times that I did that soon after Rusty and I met and started gotten together. So I said, "Hey, come on, let's go to Houston."
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Let's be fun. Houston's fun, and we're going to be part of a gay pride parade. That's going to be fun. I love being in
Oh
parades.
no, I could never do that.
Oh,
Is what
come
I
on.
said.
Yeah.
No, yeah. He talked me into it, saying
You'd
I was
just
going to
be-
be lost in the crowd.
You'd be lost in the
No one would know
crowd.
that we're there. And
Houston
then
has
15
lots of
minutes
people.
later, we're at the front of the parade holding the banner with the news cameras looking at us. And so
They needed us to hold the banner.
that was
and
my last
our,
parade.
Our role. Yeah, that was his last parade
I-
to participate with
I
me.
would cheer him on and wait for him at the end at
Yeah.
others.
So I did parades for years and years and years. I work for another one of the big 5 U.S. banks now, and even though I'm a member of the LGBTQ affinity group, I haven't really been participating. Perhaps I will at some point. Right now, I'm just taking a sit back and supporting from my desk chair. One of the comments that we had was about our relationship, because we did mention last week that it was our anniversary, or 2 weeks ago, that it was our anniversary. And so Leslie asked in a comment, how did we meet? Because I didn't get to finish my story.
Yeah, I got a little excited by the color change
He
in the
gets
yarn.
distracted. That's okay. I support him. I understand.
So I didn't know I did it, but I did do it.
22 years, I'm used to it happening. It's fine. But we actually met because we both had been in different couples, which there was nothing funny going on here. But they both were kind of rocky relationships, not real long term. Mine was like 5 years.
Mine was just one.
One, okay. But the 4 of us had a mutual friend who lived in the suburb where I lived, and who would have football watching parties on Sunday. And it was just a good time to get together. And me and my partner at that time liked football a lot. I'd always liked football. I was always going to the high school football team games, because my neighbors and church people, I always had friends who had kids on the team or in the drill team or on the band, and it was fun. And I liked professional football, so it was fun to go watch football with a bunch of gay guys. It's always a party. And I would see Rusty there, but we didn't talk, but I saw him. Well,
I was in shape back then, and he thought that I would just was some jerk or something, I guess.
something like that. I didn't think somebody like that would want to talk to me. But anyway, he didn't like football, but he was athletic, and he worked out a lot and stuff. You always swam and did gymnastics as a kid, and you still had the body for it. Yeah. Anyway, off the subject. We all
It's been a
had
long time.
Our relationships had all broke up at the end of December '97, and again we had nothing happened there,
Right.
nothing funny, but we all
Nothing
had this
funny
one.
here.
We all had this bar that we would go to as a big group. And on Memorial Day weekend, I was on vacation that week, so I always take a vacation that week. I went out to the bar by myself. And I knew everybody else was out of town, but I thought, well, whatever. I know everybody in Dallas anyway, I think. Well, I get there, and I actually didn't know anybody else in the bar, but I saw Rusty, and I was like, oh, there's that guy from the Mark's parties, football parties. And we started talking, and we talked all night, and it's just like everybody else in the bar disappeared. All I could see was this guy, and we went home together.
I asked him over to my studio, which could be scary to some people because it was in a warehouse, full of portraits I'd been working on for years. So there's faces everywhere on the walls, and
Third floor of an old dilapidated warehouse with
it's good he wasn't scared off.
no. It was interesting, and we had a good time. And
I had
yeah,
it decorated nice.
it was decorated nicely. Yeah,
I'll put a picture.
and we had a good time, and we did. And from then, the next morning, he was very blunt. He was like, "Do you want to see me again, or is this a one night stand?"
Well, I didn't have the attitude. I
No,
was very
well,
matter of fact about it.
he was very matter of fact about it, though. And I was like, "Yeah, I would like to see you again." Because
I would just rather know than wait, but of course,
right. And I was thinking, wow, this guy just really gets to the point. This might be worth checking out some more and seeing what else is up his sleeve. And this is an interesting place. And okay.
so I made him commit to something else.
22 years later, I'm still here. I'm still liking it. Yes, I still love it.
Uh-huh.
It has its moments, but doesn't everybody after any relationship?
Yeah.
Anyway, so today we're going to talk about works in progress. Excuse me. We're going to talk about finished objects.
He's going off of accounting words, processes.
Yes. Yeah, work in process is a
this is knitting. It's progress, works in progress.
Work in progress. We're going to talk about finished objects, some new acquisitions, and then we'll do some shout outs and wrap up the show. So
works in progress. So you
Works
know
in
what? I
progress.
wanted to start with a knit along. My first knit along when we went into lockdown in the middle of March. I initially thought I had a fever, and I went to the doctor to get tested to see if I was positive, COVID-19 positive, and Hampton went with me, and because I was being tested, the doctor didn't want him to go back to work and gave him a note. And so at that point, even though our area wasn't in lockdown, we went into lockdown for medical reasons. And my fever got up to 102. I didn't really feel that bad for some reason. I wasn't having any of the other symptoms, the chest, and and it came back negative finally. But that started then everyone else started going into lockdown. And then I found out Arne and Carlos podcast, and it was really new for me. I hadn't been aware of so many knitting people out there, and I'd seen what is it, very pink knits, just wonderful instructional clear videos, but I hadn't seen all these conversations. And then I saw Arne and Carlos. They had gone out of their country in Norway and coming back because it new rules. They had to go into lockdown for 2 weeks, country orders. And they started up a podcast. They had been you all probably know they've been doing weekly videos forever, but all of a sudden they started doing them over and over, or
like daily,
5 days a week.
Yeah,
they called them daily, and they would release new patterns.
Because I was watching them with them too.
Yeah, and they were free, and something to occupy yourselves and be part of this community with them, which was really. It was a wonderful, calming thing. And they tried to maintain they always dressed well, and in spite of being by themselves. And at one point, Carlos tested positive, and he did get sick, and he's still recovering. But this whole process I started doing,
knit along.
Pick it up, the knit along. I'm sorry, I get lost. So they started creating these patches, and we didn't know what they were going to end up being. But here's the first one, Mechanopsis. And I'll go through these. Oh, and I'm going to keep these right side up. If your stitches form like an up U or a V, then it's up. Yeah. That's upside down. Mechanopsis. The first one.
Oh, okay.
Ice Rose. Is that Ice Rose?
Ice Rose, yes.
Ice Rose. Yeah, and I have about 20 of these, so I am going to keep it. Oh, I might need to back up a little bit.
Okay.
Rose hips. Sunflower balm, right?
Yep.
I guess they have things that they throw out into the yard with sunflower seeds that are called sunflower bombs.
And we love sunflowers.
Love. For some reason, whenever they did a couple with words, and for some reason with words, I decide I'm going to go and pick an odd color combination. And I would have liked probably some red and pink love and more standard.
Like everybody else did.
Love colors, but I decided on a couple of these to go really unusual.
Pumpkin Falls. He went from pumpkin spice for that, so
Yeah.
that's what he does. He's an artist.
And this is hippie flower. And I did a little duplicate. Was it duplicate? No, that's actually knit in there. Yeah, never mind. I knit with 3 colors. And then is that clematis?
Uh-huh.
Clematis.
Crooked Rose.
Crooked Rose. I like these curly cues. And people were... there was a Facebook, or is a Facebook group, where people are posting their own designs or designs from reference books, their national motifs. Or here's one of the word ones, and it's hard to read because I decided to stripe the background. Which I like. I like the jarring color combinations, but and what is this? Some
8-leaf rose.
8-leaf rose. This cross pattern is something part of Norway's history.
Bird song.
Bird song.
Put a bird on it. I like that one though a lot.
That one's butterfly.
Yep. I'm trying to make sure I give them to
Oh,
the
you
right
are,
direction.
Yeah. Butterfly. Yeah, so these are all free on their website. If you want to go to their Arne and Carlos, I'll put a link, but these are all free patterns. I'm not going to put them up. I could just show you the pattern, but they actually want to keep that a non-monetary free thing that they distribute. So I am not going to
Right.
share that.
You're just going to promote it and participate with it.
Yeah, and so many people are putting these together into sweaters, into pillows, into Afghans.
That was the lily, right?
The lily,
Uh-huh.
yeah. A dog sweater.
Home Sweet Home. Which after 2.5 months of working here, I don't know.
Home.
Sweet
It's
Home.
home.
It's home. It's home. I want to go somewhere else, but the whole world's under this. There's nowhere to go.
That kind
And
of looks like a
then-
dog's face, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Now that one, did you say that one is not one of their patterns?
I'm pretty sure. These look like beehives. I'm sure those are supposed to be beehives, but didn't that look like a little dog's face?
Yeah. From the bottom, if you look at it on the bottom, it looks like a beehive.
Yeah.
You know, a traditional
But
cartoon
so
beehive.
many people posted wonderful ones. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure this is someone else's. I wish I would have looked up the name. You know what? I bet I'll add that.
Yeah, do that.
So,
And then you're working on one. Another one you're work in progress is actually still on the needles.
yeah, so they have a patch. The last one of the group that they've put out so far. This is just it's a rainbow flag.
Which, happy Pride Month.
It's starting out with pink and purple and blue and green and through the spectrum, and so I'm just a little ways into it.
And you showed me one on there that one of their followers did their own Black Lives Matters patch, and I'd really like to see you do that one too.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was someone did one of COVID, the molecule with all the ball with all the spines
Yeah,
on
you
it.
probably ought to do that one too, just as have it as a souvenir. Oh,
It's really some beautiful. If someone wants some
reminder of the
ideas
time period.
just for their own projects, there's some beautiful is it fiddly ferns that go into the spirals? And so
yeah,
one of the
those are-
patches contains
that
a
one's
nice
pretty,
graphic
yeah.
of that. And
I like that one too.
a water tower, not a water tower, a lighthouse, and there's a lot.
Yeah.
You have to find. So what's next? We should keep it
Next,
moving.
we're going to talk about finished objects. So we have looks like 3 finished objects over here to talk about. The first one
Is the gray one
Oh
there?
yeah, the gray one. Okay, so
Do you want to model it, or should I model it?
yeah, just
I don't know when is close enough.
so that's from.
You know what? I can't see with my glasses that close.
Yeah, I can see it. It looks good. So this is from the Woolly Wormhead free patterns.
Kind of crooked. Yeah, so Woolly Wormhead, she puts out a lot of new patterns, and like a lot of knitting sites there, she actually does a lot for men, and so she has a link for free patterns and a one for men's patterns, and you click on both of them because there's men's patterns in both of them. And on the free pattern is this wide brimmed or wide ribbed beanie, and just a really simple pattern. I was new at hats. It's always fun to see how they look coming together, just the geometry of it. And then I did buy a pattern.
This one is called what? Dark, DARKKE
Yeah.
pattern.
I'm not sure what language that is or what it means, but anyway, I really like the way these ribs end up. Or I'm pretty sure this was a year and a half ago. I'm pretty sure these are knit through the back loop columns. That's why they stand up even better. But anyway, so I did a couple of these. I was trying to see. I don't usually wear really tight beanie kind of hats. I don't wear a lot of hats because I don't want my ears showing. If it's really cold out, I want the ears covered. So I think this other one,
It just doesn't get that cold for that long here usually.
I
but
did one other, and I think I made it a little bit bigger. So anyway,
I like that yarn. I like the way it changes color.
this is one that I wish had I wish I had the label so that I could really show off. I could tell you what it's made out of and all that, but I'm sure there's a lot of wool in it because that's what I usually go for. So, what's after the hats?
Well, you're going to do some. You're going to talk about some of the other podcasts that you've been watching and the ones that you're enjoying, and give them some mentions and
You know what?
talk about them.
I'm going to talk about. I'm working on another pair of socks.
Oh yes,
So last time, and I'll include this right now too because this makes sense. So last time I was working on these, and I was on the first one. Well, I've finished them.
and these are the Perfect socks.
Regia Perfect.
Uh-huh.
Arne and Carlos designed.
The yarn so that it would create the socks.
And I wanted to show, I have a couple friends that are starting to knit things. And one of them is starting to knit some Perfect socks, and he hasn't knit in quite a few years. So I'm directly speaking to one of my friends if he's curious. Seldom. So and I've got it turned inside out now, but as you knit it top down, and as you get down to here, you do the heel, and then you move on. And right at the end of the heel, you automatically have a hole. And so Arne and Carlos say, well, just I don't know if this is you're gonna be able to see it, but just sew up the hole. Well, what you do is a few rounds after that hole, as you get right above that stitch, pull that stitch up to your needle. And if anyone's really curious, I'll put together a little video and show what I'm talking about. But a few rows up, pull that loose stitch up, give it a twist, and knit it with the stitch higher up. Knit them together. And then that pulls your hole tight, and it's basically seamless. I was so happy with how this one I can see pretty good. I want one that's clear. Well, anyway, there's not much of a hole left. So, finish those, and then I am almost done with a new pair, fall night color, and I just love how these stripes are almost the patterning almost comes to a pattern with dots and slashes and things. It's kind of a fuzzy patterning, so if you really want Fair Isle, you're going to have to knit it. But this is so easy and fun just to kind of crank out.
Yeah, and just say thanks also to Brandy Harris for giving you some tips in the comment on our last episode on which needles to use and how many stitches to use for men as opposed to women's socks.
Yeah, I really appreciate all that information. I'm going to remember it's there. Well, I think you said men's are 72 and women's are 64, usually, depending on your tightness and in knitting. But I have been knitting my first pair on a size US 3. I don't know the millimeters, but the US 3. The second one on a US 2, and I'm happier with the US 2. I used a different number of stitches. Anyway, and you're recommending a US 1 or 1.5, and I think I've got to try that because I would like a little tighter fabric.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate all that information because I am learning. It's my second pair of socks. I'm about to move on to my third because it is kind of, I thought the little needles would throw me off and that I wouldn't want to. I was used to knitting sweaters and things that went quicker. So anyway, I just realized I might be flashing some cards, so I took my cards out.
Also, a comment from Rob DeLine, and I like what you'd said on the hard days. I think back to what that first Women's March felt like, because he had also churned out a pile of hats a few years ago. And the fact that craft played such a large role in that made it such much better. And I thought that was a really nice comment because it was true. And the picture you showed of the sea of pink before.
Well, it gave a way for a lot of us to get involved.
Yeah, that was one of the ways for you to get involved without actually walking the 6 blocks over to City Hall and being there with all those people. But Rob also asked, what's that staircase on the wall, and is it for the cats?
Oh, yeah.
And it is for the cats, so you can actually pop in
and
that little bit of
Stormy
video
happened to show up during one of our first attempts
at this video, so he'll just put that in here, and you can see that happen.
Now?
Right. Watch that happening, and there's Stormy going up the stairs. And
yeah, so I built, actually, maybe I'll show a picture of the room if people are curious, but I kind of lined some of these walls with plywood, some nice plywood, and put some IKEA shelves up. and totally on the wall to my left, and some on the opposite wall, and on that wall. They go around the whole place,
The
and
room, all the room.
and because we have cats that just show up here, just where we live. We have feral cats that try to
We have
become indoor
four
cats.
cats that we love and take care of.
We have one. We adopted one, and 3 others adopted us. And today, a new one showed up. But as part of my watching Jackson Galaxy, on YouTube, trying to figure out how to get all these cats to coexist, because there was a little kitten, and I'll explain how they fit together. But a little kitten was had I had her fixed, and she had surgery because she had gotten cut, and so anyway, she needed to be laid up with a cone, and she was starting to jump the walls, and I had to let her start mixing with Simba, our big domineering male cat. And I was afraid that there would be
Who's indoor only.
Who's indoor only and wants to go out.
Because he's FIV positive.
So I started building, long story, get to the end of it, short. I built these stairs and kind of am still in the middle of it, so that there would be pathways following Jackson Galaxy for cats to run and do their power thing, and one of them can be higher than the others. And it turns out Simba, our big male cat, can't fit up here because he goes up the little stairs and he tries to turn around, and he's so big, he's about 18 to 20 pounds, and he falls off because
He's like daddy's.
He's way too big. And the little girls can get up there, and so it's cool.
But
to
mainly
see.
only Stormy goes up there. And there's a sheepskin blanket or
IKEA.
yeah, a little.
I am not
sheepskin-
doing ads. It's just
No, it's just that we go there.
we do.
Our kitchen came from there. Everything anyway. Stormy gets up there and she'll sleep up there, and that's really cute to see. But she also is really the only one that goes all the way up the stairs and then goes around and around to these other bookcases and then jumps down into the windowsill. And
She's got a. Maybe I'll
She has a
find a
route.
video of her doing that, and I'll be able to.
yeah, pop it in.
Yeah.
So you were going to talk about some other podcasts that you watch that you really appreciate.
Yeah, and I have there's some new ones. There's this one, the Bearded Pearl. He's just he's got really good ideas. He knits beautifully. I guess a lot of people know him from Ravelry and Instagram. He started about the same time that we did. So it's really exciting to. He's fun to watch. He's just very. He knows what he's talking about. It's very reassuring. He has a nice, calming kind of personality. At least that's my take on the podcast. So he's great. Sweet Tea No Shade, and
Thanks for the mention, guys.
yeah, that was awesome. I put a comment, so you've already heard this, but we got more subscriptions with you guys. So if any of my friends are watching and you don't realize this, it's great if you subscribe, because we're trying to reach 100 subscribers and past that. I really don't know what that means, but we could use all the help. And I comments and likes, and I feel funny saying this, but you're supposed to say the formalities, and maybe I'll get better at it. But anyway, that's as good as it gets for right now. But
Sounds like something I'll be saying.
Sweet Tea No Shade, they're funny. Their umbrella almost blew away, and it just, as they were filming the last podcast, they almost had a disaster on live on.
But I did like the way they did the cutaway with the rainbow colors of saying "stay tuned" and
Stand by or something
then
like
stand
it.
by, and
Uh-huh.
then they came back, and I noticed they had different shirts on.
This is the next day.
Yeah, well, I can understand that. We've done that before.
Yeah, but we kept those clothes and we put those shirts back on, right?
Right.
Even though the cat had slept on them by then. So, okay. Oh, another one, Pitchfork Fiber. He's been going a little bit longer than us. he does a lot of sweaters, or at least so far the episodes I've seen, and I haven't gone back in time yet, but I've seen the newer ones, and really nice, like yokes, color work along the yokes, and nice color choices. And I've been watching his. I've been watching the Knitting Bear, and he's got 2 episodes out. He started the same time as us, and he's a new knitter. He started last fall with a friend, and has just. He's a designer, so maybe it fits his aesthetic. I don't know, but he's really into it, and his name is Paul, the Knitting Bear. And then I found this other one that I've stitching over the days, and it kind of blew me away. She's really cute and adorable. It's fun to watch her, and she's so enthusiastic about these amazingly complicated Fair Isle sweaters, and she seems to do it so easily. She gives little instructional, so you can see her knit a little bit sometimes. But she did this one video. What was it called? I just watched it. I've lost where. Oh, Me Made May 2020. That's an odd. Me Made May 2020. And it just shows her every day during the month of May. She stands there. This is her. Sorry. And she'll stand this way wearing her clothes, and you don't see her feet. She stands this way, then she stands this way, and then she's like a model. It's so fun to watch her.
She made the skirts too.
Well, she must sew. I think she does the skirts. I think she does the sweaters. I think she does everything. And every day it's a new thing. And she has this thing where where she turns, and then her foot comes up, and you get to see what her shoe is.
And it matches, right?
And it's so it gets into this rhythm, and you're like, what are you wearing on your feet? Show me your feet. Show me your shoes. And so
I got to see that.
It's fun.
I used to love to go shoe shopping with my girlfriend.
It's amazing thinking she's creating the whole look, and and every sweater, different techniques, and just so professional and beautiful. And anyway, I've only seen a couple of her episodes, but it was a lot of fun. So we're at the end, I think.
Yeah, and we're not quite at the end. We have a few more things to wrap up with the ending. But I think some of y'all realize I don't knit.
One thing, we didn't show my yarn that I got.
I don't really do crafting either, but I watch everything Rusty does. And last night I had this weird dream. I always have weird dreams, but we were at the state fair, and they weren't selling beer this year, which was weird, which would be really odd for me to go and not have a beer at the state fair. But the craft room was, instead of being things in cases, it was people with these tables, and they were all really close together, and you had to squeeze through them. And I bumped some tables, and one woman had these knit butterflies, and this other woman had some crocheted little frogs. And I said, oh, let me pick them up. So I knocked them off the table. I was like, oh, this is crochet, so that's yours. Oh, this is knit, so this is yours. So you've taught me.
He didn't used to know the difference.
I didn't used to know, but now I know. Now I know the difference.
One's the hook and one's the needles.
Yeah, I know what they look like. Let's go with that.
Now he does.
Okay, so you had some new yarn that we're going to look at.
Yeah, I got some new yarn, and
as we start.
So another Arne Carlos. This could have been a sub-theme for me today.
For this episode.
Yeah, the socks, the knit-along patches, and this yarn. So this came, and it's one of their pillows called a Greta pillow. And this is when I didn't know how to get yarn. This was my first yarn acquisition has it only been a few weeks? A few weeks ago I got it, but I found out about the Yarn Sub website because West 7th Wool in Fort Worth told me about it, and so I got on the Yarn Sub and found a couple places that I could buy this exact yarn because so often I substitute yarn and I just really wanted to use the exact yarn. And it's called Rowan Soft Yak DK. And I've never knit with yak yarn before, but this is 70%, 76 cotton, 15 yak, and 9% nylon. And it's got 5 colors here. I had to get it from 2 places. This one from Demoris came in a kind of nice bag. But I'm really anxious to get started on that, and I'll probably show a picture of the pillow. But that pillow I did with the portrait on it last time was my first pillow, but this will be the first pattern I'm following to do one.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that Dallas Fort Worth has like 7 million people in the whole metroplex, 13 counties, and I don't know how many cities, suburbs that makes up. But we used to have about 3 or 4 yarn stores, and just in the past couple of years they've all closed. And not because of COVID, it just they all, I don't know, the owners were ready to retire at all of them.
Well, Holly's retired.
Holly
She was ready to have a little more freedom, I think. And
yeah, and the one in Plano
kept it online for a while. I don't see the website anymore. Yeah, there was another one that I found out about through this Yarn Sub website that directed me there. And so I thought Dallas didn't have any others, but they did. They're closing at the end of next month.
Yeah. And there used to be the knitting center over by Watt Rock Lake and the Arboretum.
Mm-hmm.
But I think she retired too, because she started getting rid of all of her looms and her those wheels where they spin the yarn, and because she actually made yarn too. And I remember going there on a White Rock Lake artist studio tour a couple times.
With so many people knitting, it's amazing to me that we've got stores closing here. I don't know if it's that way other places, but I mean, the one in Fort Worth is still open.
You can buy yarn at the big hobby stores like Hobby Lobby, Michaels, and Joann Fabrics, but they don't really have the whole range of choices that like Holly's did. That was a gorgeous little store.
Yeah.
And every time we'd go in there, I'd almost always go with Rusty, and there'd be this whole table of people just sitting there knitting, some of them learning, and some of them just hanging out as a group, just like a knitting circle. And there was always this one woman that went to my church, and so it was just fun seeing somebody I knew going into this store that I didn't know anything about. I often would sit in one of the chairs off to the side, just like a husband with his wife going and
well, I get
shopping,
my yarn
where you
fix.
just sort of sit there going, yeah, hold your purse, and
because I want to look at everything.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, this is fun. But anyway, so you've got a show coming up in November.
Yeah, actually,
and you are using knitting.
Talking about new yarn, so partly because I do have a show coming up in November, my first scheduled show. There's always opportunities to have a piece in a show, but this is going to be a solo show at Turner Carroll Gallery in Santa Fe, and it's scheduled for November, around the 20th. I'll have to check the specific date and post it.
Yeah.
But
I think it's the 21st or the 22nd. I think it's 21st, but anyway.
Yeah, so this will be my first show where we've had the coronavirus going around, and a lot of galleries don't have openings anymore. I'm really not sure what to expect. I know I'll be shipping the work to them. They'll install a show. I don't know if I'll be going there for an opening to meet people like usual. I don't know if there's going to be a resurgence in the fall. So it's a little nerve-wracking.
It is.
But and so knitting is going to be a big part of the show coming up. So progressively, I will be probably showing more bits of what I'm doing with my artwork instead of more normal knitting projects. But
Well, for you, they're normal knitting projects.
well, they're all normal for me.
They're
Yeah,
all normal. You may show some painting also.
yeah. Well, this show is going to be painting and knitting on 3D surface I call Cube Network, and I've talked about that before, but you'll see firsthand as I show it to you. And so I part of getting ready for that is me wanting to knit and have a good supply of yarn from someone that I know, or at least have a relationship with, even online. And so I was watching Needles at the
Yeah.
Ready, and they were holding up their yarn, enjoying this hand dyed yarn from Lolodidit.com. And I finally went and looked and contacted Lauren, and she answered some questions. And so I've got my first order of yarn coming from her soon that I'll get to show you. But just incredible rich colors, and I'm so excited to have it coming in. And once I have that, I'll start being able to knit up some swatches and turn them into 3D sculptures. And but I needed a reliable source of yarn. So anyway,
And then you were watching a podcast of Christine Kelly about
yeah,
moths.
okay. So well,
'Cause
actually,
we have a
I was
moth problem.
I was watching Paul the Knitting Bear,
Oh, okay.
and he's a designer. I'm not sure what kind. I probably missed that, but he has experience with fibers and wool, and he knows the damage that moth can do, and he knows it's moth. I don't know, moth season. I guess they're laying their eggs, and so all of a sudden he started becoming aware that people in podcasts are displaying all their yarn behind them, and it's I love having mine out. I luxuriate in having piles of beautiful colors of yarn around the place, and but he says it's just too expensive for him to risk having it all
It
ruined.
is.
And so he's got them in sealed plastic tubs, and it made a lot of sense, and that set me off on some research. And so I watched a bunch of podcasts on moths and damage and what to do, and moth traps and heating and freezing. And I finally watched this one called Christine Kelly, and it looks like she's got a lot of followers. So, but she made it seem like the most important thing is that you air out your things. The things that are in the dark, in the corners of your closet, and are forgotten about, are the prime target of the moths. And so getting them out of the and letting them see the sun, because they, as soon as there's bright sun and they can't hide from it, they're going to start dropping off. And
The larva, that is.
well, anything mobile that won't get rid of the eggs.
Okay.
But yeah, the moths themselves and the larvae, are the ones that actually eat.
Okay.
And they
Yeah.
eat the wool. This is a mouth on the end of the larva eating wool, and so it was enlightening thing. And so I started all my piles. I started panicking because I did see some moths, and then
Moths.
as I was doing the last hats last week
On
and
our
showing,
last episode, we noticed one of the hats had a hole at the top. But I'd noticed it, and then he noticed it, and I could see it in his face, but I didn't want him distracted, so I quickly just kind of
I'll
I'm
put
gonna
the
do
video.
this, and then I just put it over here and said, and the next hat, and so
I had noticed a hole, and all of a sudden it clicked, and I was afraid for everything. So it's been, been stressed for a week about all my yarn, and everything I've made. And so everything, well, I don't have anything. Everything is in a Ziploc bag. To show you those things today, I took them out of their Ziploc bags, and they're about to go back into quarantine. And
And they're going into
because I'm dealing with
plastic
this,
tubs.
I'm not gonna.
And those are going into plastic tubs.
So, but a lot of my yarn at first I took out and I balls I would wrap around my arms, so I had a big open loose. I don't know what you call that, but the loops, and so I could hang it out and it would air out, and I put things out in the sun, and my hats I cooked on both sides. And if you put something really white out there, it will darken or it will age within hours. So there's this one little hat, which luckily I didn't love to begin with, but it was really white and now it's really cream. It's sad.
I think it looks good cream. I don't even
Well,
remember it being
it
snowy
changed.
white.
Well, I could tell when it was inside and outside, and
Yeah.
I flipped it and thought that maybe a smoker had been around it or something. So
Nope.
anyway, so I went through a lot and finally realized, I can't control everything, but I can buy a bunch of Ziploc bags, and I'm going to clean them up as good as I can. I'm going to put everything in Ziploc bags. The life cycle is about 6 months. So everything's in quarantine right now, and I'm still using things because I have a huge stash. I'm making
yarn,
things,
yeah.
and as soon as I make them, they go into quarantine, and I'm gonna find out what damage shows up, but I'll be able to contain it because each ball of yarn is in its own bag.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I don't know if that's the best strategy, but I needed to have something to do and act, because that's a big deal to suddenly think that all of your yarn, because I buy lots of wool, is in danger.
Yeah.
And so all the new things will be safe, and I'm that's part of what spurred me on to getting new yarn. I didn't want to rely on the old yarn for a show that's going to be sold, hopefully sold. And I don't want to do that to people, so I want new yarn. And
one of those pieces that is finished was your cover photo for our first episode on YouTube. So people can see one of those pieces already finished.
yeah, well, the
By
good
looking at the
and the
first
good
episode.
thing, the odds are anything I've been working on has been out and I've been active with it, and that's what saves things. The things that you wear are most safe, but the things that you tuck away in storage can become damaged or become the target. So
Okay.
anyway, it's been a learning process, and I'm glad to have been turned on to Lolodidit and excited for the new yarn and to show that off. Hopefully next time it's on its way.
So thanks for watching our third episode, and if you would subscribe if you're not already, and give us a comment and tell us what you think. And we'll look forward to seeing you again.
Bye
Y'all
bye.
have a good one. Bye.